We got Rings of Power to talk about. We got some
What's
Warner
that?
Brothers news.
Letterbox. Why did I think it wasn't Letterbox? Letterbox is a really boring name. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice little tool on the interwebs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really boring name. Um,
Be like that.
let's see here. Good old Letterbox. All right, so um, I can't remember if it was this week. I'm trying to some degree. If I can't go see it in the theater, I'm trying to keep up with like new releases when they get put out on streaming,
Right.
in one form or another. And I watched two movies this past week from this year.
What'd you watch?
I watched. Do you want to hear about the one that I thought was kind of mid but had some decent things, or do you want to hear about the one that I really liked?
The one that you really liked.
Okay. So there is a movie that went completely under the radar, and the only reason that I found out about this movie is because of Red Letter Media, because they did a catch up recently of some stuff that they'd been watching, and I go back and forth with them. I think sometimes they're right on the money with their sort of like, not deconstruction necessarily, but their reviews or like whatever you want to call them, right? Like when they're sometimes they're on point. Sometimes I'm like, y'all saw this. This is not right. Like I think one of them liked that Matrix movie that came out a couple of years ago, and that was, I can't remember if that was the first time that I was like, oh guys, like what's going on there, right? Like it was weird. It's like that movie is bad. Like it's not. it's and you know how we always talk about it. It's like it's okay if you like that, but there's a difference between you being like, yeah, I can see why. It's like, yes, this is not good, but at the same time, there's something that I connected with. It's totally fine. But they were like, he was like, oh no, it's actually pretty good. Like if you look at it like this, and I'm like, oh no. And I mean, we reviewed that, right? Didn't we talk about that movie when it came out?
Yeah, I think we did.
And so they have ever since then. That's the one that sticks in my mind. But there may have been something that came out before that was sort of their original like uh-oh moment. Anyway, there's this little indie movie that came out sometime this year. Oh, it was in May. So it was no. That's when I watched it. Okay, sorry. Letterboxd is weird. It doesn't give you a ton of information. Anyway, I've been going on. I'm rambling enough. This movie is called Snack Shack, which is, again, this is like quite small. It's about these two. I think they're about to go into their freshman year, right? They're like these two kids, very entrepreneurial. They're trying to, they're what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're really driven, which is something I don't feel like in, yeah, like this. And the movie's a bit of like a coming of age story, right? Which I've always liked this kind of film. It's very simple. It's very character driven. You're not looking.
And I didn't catch it. What'd you say the film was called again?
It's called Snack Shack.
Snack Shack. Okay, that is what you said.
Which is the central focus. Like it's the thing that the movie kind of is surrounded by. Like it's what they're doing for their summer job, right? So they're very ambitious kids, and it's cool because the movie itself, again, it's not something that like it's not try hard. You know what I mean? You know how I feel like that's actually a pretty good term for a lot of the stuff that we watch, where it just everything feels like it's trying way too hard, and it's just constantly failing. And there are a few good things, right?
Right.
And I'm like watching this, and it's I'm like, okay, I'm kind of digging the characters a little bit, and there's like a love triangle, and there's the sort of like older male influence to the main character, and just some different little things going on. But I realized, and I'm not going to spoil too much about it. I mean, the main idea is it's like these kids right before they're going into their freshman year, and like I said, and it's set in the 90s, right? And it's kind of got a grungy punk sort of vibe to it a little bit. Like these kids are like smoking, and the opening scene is that the two of them, they're supposed to be like 14, and they're like gambling at a dog racetrack, right? And it's what's so cool about the movie, and some of the stuff that we talk about a lot, is just these like these little character moments where it's like everything that's happening in the movie is very intentional. To set up the different characters and like what they're doing, the facial expressions, just everything that's going on in it. And I realized probably about halfway through the movie that I was like, man, I feel like I could sit here for a few more hours and just watch these characters go through different scenarios in their lives. Like I was really engaged,
intrigued.
Yeah. And it's just it's not. I like, and it's interesting because you begin to like the characters, right? Like they have their flaws, and everything about them like felt pretty real. Like I looked it up later because I couldn't. The sign of like a good casting when the characters who are actually in their 20s, you're like, they kind of pass for like that high schoolish age, right?
Right.
I kind of think the movie might have benefited a little bit more if they were just a little bit older, maybe in the high school range. Like the movie's not perfect. I've got a couple like minor issues with it, just from like a payoff perspective, I think is the best way to say it. But it's such like, again,
a feel-good story.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing and nice to see someone just do this like very small character-focused comedy slash. I mean, got a little bit of a drama thing going on. It is rated R. It's just because there's a lot of language in it. But again, like everything in it, you're like, okay, this feels real for this scenario, right? They're kind of like middle class kids for the most part. It reminded me a lot of growing up in like a similar town, you know. And I don't know, like I just really connected with it, like on a very like personal level, but also just the simplicity of it, but how good the character writing was in it, and just the way that like there are really good payoffs, and you like really feel for the characters and their situations. You're like, wow, I actually like, they feel like real people to me, and I don't get that a lot. It was just kind of surprising, and I found myself kind of like thinking about it the next day, and I'm like, wow, that's unusual. Like, when was the last time I just was like, I'll just put this on, it's this recommendation, see how it goes. So pretty happy with it, man. Like it's not going to be for everyone. Again, like this is not a genre movie at all. Like this is just something that it's another kind of film that I think is missing, you know. We don't get these sort of, I talk about it with Marriage Story quite a bit, but just, you know, these kind of character driven movies where people are kind of in rooms talking, and the drama is driving the movie, and it's not just like, you know, farmers in space getting bullied by a giant empire that needs their wheat for some reason, and the crazy slow-mo, and I don't know, it's just it's so weird to see stuff like that happen.
I know what you mean.
So all that to say, like, if I guess like this is the kind of movie that if you were into stuff that's more like Garden State or anything that kind of falls into that like very what was that movie that Jesse Eisenberg was he worked at like a carnival. This movie came out in like 2009. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, I would say it, like that's similar. Something Land. What was the name of that movie?
Oh,
I cannot remember.
I can't remember it.
But you know what I'm talking about.
That's gonna bother me. I gotta look it up now.
But it kind of falls into, I don't even know if you would call it that genre, but it's so much more like character focused than it is about, you know, some sort of big space odyssey, or, you know, it's a very specific kind of movie, and you don't see movies like this very often anymore. So
Man, what's that movie?
I know, isn't that
It's
funny?
not American Ultra.
No, it's called like Something Land.
Yes, I know.
And it's got Kristen Stewart in it.
Stewart in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Adventureland.
Adventureland, that's what it is. It definitely falls more in line with that. Like that kind of genre, like if you can even call it a genre. I don't know
Dude,
if that's.
Sorry. Could you imagine that he would be Lex Luthor
I
in
know.
the future?
I know,
That's such a bad casting.
bro. And that, you know what's funny is I
man.
think Adventureland was the movie that Kristen Stewart did right after the whole Twilight thing. And it was supposed to be like
that's
she was
funny.
trying to kind of get out of that genre. It's weird, right?
Yeah, that is weird.
Okay, so
Well,
really like that. Very much recommend it if that's the if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, you might not like it. You might think it's just all right. It's totally cool. I just, for whatever reason, really connected with this movie. So definitely a recommend for me. Now, the movie that I was hoping was going to be better than it was is a little film called Abigail. This was, like horror is sort of like my beat a little bit. I am very particular about the stuff that I like, but the guy who directed this also directed a movie a few years ago called Ready or Not. It's basically about a girl who is about to marry into a really wealthy family, and they're like their wealth is based off of like board games, right? So I can't remember exactly, but the idea is almost like they created. It's like Hasbro, basically. You know what I mean? So, or not? Does Hasbro do the board games? I can't even remember anymore.
Yes,
it doesn't really matter, but the kind of that, you get the idea. Zombieland. But the idea, the idea behind the movie, and if anybody's interested in this, I would suggest not watching the trailer, because the trailer gives away a ton, and it's unfortunate because I don't think my mind totally would have been changed about the movie, and I'll try to do my best not to spoil it. But the idea is that it's this group of criminals. They are tapped essentially to capture a little girl so that they can all make a lot of money. Right? And they take her out into the middle of nowhere to this like mansion. And something specific, and to be honest, it may even be in like the if you like read the like the little blurb that they give you for the movies, it might even be in there. But part of me was like, I feel like they should have hidden some of that a little bit more. It is a creature feature, so I'll say that. But it's something gets sort of revealed close to halfway through the movie, maybe about 30 minutes in, and it kind of goes to some degree off the rails, and I didn't think it was that great, but there are a lot of things in it that I think are fun. It's got sort of like that Tarantino vibe for the violence that's just like way over the top, and like that the last like 30 minutes of the movie, it is incredibly bloody, and it's like, but it's wild, right? Like it's definitely more on the side of like pulp than it is serious. But I don't really want to give away why it is, because if you're into these kind of movies, like it's kind of a fun surprise to see all these things happen. So I like tell you, if you're interested in this, go into it as blind as you possibly can. It'll be on some sort of streaming service in the next like month or month or so.
Nice.
And it's like that's kind of what I came out of it. I was like, okay, there was some stuff I found really entertaining, some like really funny moments, but they do a lot of weird weird things in it that I was not a fan of. It gets like kind of girl bossy in some moments, and especially towards the end, there's some stuff that's like, I don't know, if that was convincing. Like I'm not sure our like heroine probably should have survived some of these moments. Feels a little like The writing feels a little lazy in some places,
Well,
which
I'll
is a
have to
little.
watch Snack Shack, but I'll have to leave Abigail to you.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
to the
Yeah,
trolls.
it's probably not your thing. I'll tell you after, like, what it's all about. But like, it is interesting more than it is good, unfortunately.
That sucks.
And it's but the thing is, man, is like, oh man, I found another movie right before we started that I want to maybe even watch once we're done and talk about next week. That's just another little. If it's decent, you know what I mean. If it sucks, I'll be like, yeah, I saw this, it sucked. But I'll go on Amazon and I'm like looking at the stuff that's come out this year, and the stuff that I keep sort of going back to is these weird little, and I don't mean weird in a bad way, but just these like interesting little films that maybe got small theatrical releases, but that nobody's talking about.
Yeah,
That's the stuff like
that flew under the radar.
yeah, that's the stuff I'm finding more interesting. Some of it not so great. Like I'll watch trailers, I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes it's more like it's just not something that either of us would be interested in. And then sometimes I'm just like, maybe but it's just like not for us.
Yeah,
I sorry
I
guys.
watched
Oh yeah, you watched
the Iron Claw,
Iron
man.
Claw. You liked it, right?
Yeah, dude, it was good. It's
Uh,
not like there's some issues I have with it,
Right.
but it's still a really good movie. A solid movie. Would have been well worth it to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah.
I mean,
It wasn't here for very long. Did you even get it up there?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that it wasn't in theaters for long, but I don't know if I got it up here. However, I have to say I'm happy that we finally did watch it. We've been meaning to watch
Yeah.
it since it's been on HBO Max, and pleasantly surprised with
Okay.
how well it was done and the acting in it. And there's some spots where the acting is like, I think there could have been more here,
Right.
but solid movie.
So,
So I would
hey,
give
is
it. I would say like 7.5 to 8.
Okay. Is it A24?
Yes.
That's funny. Where
Really,
would it
really
fall?
good work. Really impressed with Zac Efron.
So it came out
acting.
it came out last year, right?
Yes,
if-
like the end of last year, like December.
Falls would be pretty high on your list from last year.
Yeah,
You think
it would be.
falls? Okay, cool. Yeah, I really want to watch it. I got on HBO Max recently because Smiling Friends season 2 came out, and I was watching that and saw that on there, and I was like, oh dang! I was like, I really need to watch that. And then I was also like, I don't really want to watch anything too serious right now. You know how you get in those
Yeah.
moods where you're like,
Yep.
I was like, I need something that is going to, make me feel
And-
kind of good.
And that's why I had been putting off watching the Iron Claw because, it's about the Von Erichs family and it's a tragedy. So
Right.
just to let you know.
Right.
But was finally in the mood. We watched it. Great story, great movie, and I really enjoy how they include technical aspects of wrestling in there,
Oh, that's
and they captured everything really well. And you're just, by the end of the movie, you're like, I think I need a good cry.
Yeah. I feel you.
Like it's an endearing movie, especially with the ending scene.
Okay. Oh, dude, I want to watch it. I'm not gonna put it off for like years, like I did with like Whiplash.
Yeah.
Like Whiplash came out, and people were like, "Yeah, so good," and I was like, "Sweet, I'm gonna watch it." And it. I think it was last year when I finally sat down and watched it.
That's funny.
I know it's so funny how that happens. I almost keep the stuff that people recommend that I know I'm probably gonna like in the chamber, so that when we go through these really dry seasons, I'm like, "Oh yes, I can. I'm finally gonna sit down and watch this. Now is finally the time."
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be, thankfully, it's not going to be dry for too long. I mean, well,
House of the Dragon season 2.
we got House of the Dragon, and then we have right. Let's see. So House of the Dragon ends July 22nd. So we'll have about a month. Well, no, it ends. Excuse me, August 5th. So we'll have
Okay.
like a
Couple
few
weeks.
weeks of dryness. Yeah, until the Rings of Power
Well,
debuts.
Before we get started, I have two more things I want to say, and then we're
Okay,
going to talk
go
about
ahead.
Lord of the Rings. So, if ladies and gentlemen, if you have not watched Clarkson's Farm's the best show on TV right now.
I was hearing about it.
It is. It is legitimately like, and it was funny. I was
It's on
watching.
Prime, right?
It's on Prime, yeah. We just started doing ads. So please, watch with an ad blocker because Amazon starting to now charge so that you don't have ads in your videos is the like, dude.
Yeah, they're getting sued for it too.
Oh, are they good? Because it's
Yeah.
it's insane, dude. Um,
It's because of Rings of Power bombing season 1.
Oh, probably they're trying to make up some money, bro. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how many people we have that have Prime or whatever. So if we charge all of them like an extra $3 thing a month or whatever, we can recoup a certain amount of money. But yeah, it's crap. But Clarkson's Farm is amazing. You can get around the ads with like Brave or any sort of thing. With most ad blockers, it works pretty well. But I watch it on Brave and I never have any ads. But then I was on a TV with like Roku, and all of a sudden all these ads were popping up. And dude, it's egregious the number of ads that show up on their shows, like 4 or 5 times in like a 40-minute episode.
Jeez,
And they're
man.
long. They're long ads, some of them. You know what I mean? So it's bull crap. But the show is really, really great. I also there's a guy that does kind of these funny reviews with animation on YouTube. I think his name is Alex Myers. And he watched that movie Challengers with Zendaya and did like a review of it. And he was trying so hard, dude, because he's a pretty positive guy. Like he doesn't typically trash stuff, and his like shtick is that he watches like a lot of Disney movies and just talks about how weird they are. Like, and it's like all sorts of stuff from like Disney Channel or in that sort of like preteen thing. And but he watched Challengers and he like broke down the whole movie in about 17 minutes, and I was like. And he was like, yeah, his like synopsis was basically, yeah, if you're the kind of person that be like into this, like, great, glad you liked it. And that's how he ended. I was like, bro, that sounds like major cope. Like it sounds, and everything he was describing in that movie, I was like, this sounds like garbage, like just absolute weird, cringy garbage. And I had no interest in watching it anyway, but I had heard a few things about it, and it's always nice when you have people who are willing to just like take one for the team so that you can kind of get an idea of what it is without actually having to sit through like 2 hours of it. So very much appreciative of when people do that. In our case, when we do it, we make you sit there for 2 hours in an hour-long episode. But hey, It is what it is. But yeah, man. Weird, right? It's a weird year.
It is.
Pretty stoked though, to some degree, that there are if you are searching hard enough, you can find some interesting movies and some interesting television out there. And we're not even halfway through the year. Pretty great. Been pleasantly surprised with this year.
It's been a slow year, but at the same time, the stuff that's been good has been there.
Yep.
It's just more few and far between, but a little slow. But hopefully, we're gearing up with House of the Dragon. I'm really excited for it.
I would love, dude.
And then at the end of the year, we got Arcane, and then
I'm stoked for
the War of the Rohirrim.
I think my like television, like best television of the year, is probably gonna be like not surprising. What I'm hoping for is that I can like see enough of these other movies that are going under the radar that that's kind of the surprising side this year, where it's like, like Dune came out, and I don't know what else. I can't even remember. I was like, Dune.
As far as movies that were
good,
that's the only thing I have on my
list. I'm looking at it right now because I've been keeping track.
Which is Dune Part 2 Dune Part 2 is a very interesting one because it was a good movie, but I heard someone say recently that it was a clinical movie, and I was like, man, that word encapsulates that movie so well.
It is.
Clinical.
I don't necessarily think that's bad though.
I don't either.
I think that it's a style to some degree, and I very much like Dune and Dune Part 2 definitely have flaws. Like we've talked about them. I think they just didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
You really could have probably turned it into a trilogy if you really wanted to. It'd be tough just because you need those highs and lows. It's really hard writing project off that one book. But there's definitely some stuff that it's just some really unsatisfying moments in the second one. Really had really good highs, also some lows that are pretty strong too. But yeah, man, I mean, like it's not been. So far I'm kind of like split this year. So I might be missing some stuff, but I've seen 13 movies that came out this year, and I would say about half of them are like 6 and better, and then the other half are definitely 4s to 3s.
Interesting.
A couple 5s in there, I would say, but like it's split pretty. I'm looking at it right now. It's split pretty even for the year.
I need to update my letterbox.
I know. I've been actually keeping up with it, which is surprising because that is not. That doesn't sound like me. All right. Let me see if Brave is working properly.
You want to talk about Warner Brothers news first, and then we'll touch on Rings of Power last?
Yeah, dude. Let's get into it.
So it was announced on, when was it? Was it May 9th? Or is this article short? Yeah, no, it was announced on May 9th that Peter Jackson and Fran and Philippa are all returning. Philippa Boyens, Fran Walsh, the writers of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, were returning to make a new Lord of the Rings movie. Now, bit of confusion. They're going to be making 2 movies. I don't know if it's going to be 2 movies for The Hunt for Gollum, or if it's only going to be one of the movies is The Hunt for Gollum, and the second one's
Dude. Sorry, keep going.
I don't know.
What is this obsession with Gollum recently?
Man,
Gollum doesn't. I'm sorry, Gollum doesn't need spinoffs. Gollum doesn't.
Dude, I mean,
he doesn't need this.
It's like it's so funny too. So I was telling my keeper, I was like, hey, guess what I just found out today when I got home from work? And she's like, what? I'm like, Peter Jackson and Fran and Philippa are returning to make new Lord of the Rings movies. And she was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but, and she's like, no, don't give a but, don't star, don't do any of that. I'm like, what?
But
I was like, she was like, what movie are they coming out to make? And she's like, The Hunt for Gollum. And she goes, oh. I was like, see?
Dude,
I told you.
Yeah, he is not.
She was like, "Don't say but. Don't start on your stuff. Don't be negative."
I know that there is always that chance, right? I do know it, but people, we don't live in a bubble. Like we live in a time where, like, if you're going to be like, Peter Jackson's coming back, he's bringing back the people, like, and if they're going to come out and be like, listen, we understand what went wrong with The Hobbit, we like this needs to be one of those things where they have to like hit the mark on everything that they do, because everyone across the board is just incredibly cynical, specifically about genre movies right now. Right?
Yep.
Your fantasy, your sci-fi, anything that you want to talk about in those realms. Like, people just do not. They're just not trusting, right? There is definitely a cynicism across the board with it. More as the months and years go by, more and more people get there, right? I promise you, by the time they start talking about Fallout Season 2, the opinions on the first season are going to change.
Yeah. I felt like I was almost in a lone boat there with Fallout Season 2. I'm like,
yeah,
got
you
through
didn't
the
even
first 2
finish
episodes, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this.
which is fair enough. I painfully did it because I thought we were watching all of them. And then, of course, like the longer, like, there were definitely
that's
moments,
your own fault though.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. How is that
because I said episode by episode. If we would have done it episode by episode,
but I told you that they released it all at once.
I can't do 8 hours of that.
I told you. But yeah, I think that what typically happens, right? Something like Fallout comes out, and it gets a lot of hype because everyone's saying like it's pretty good, but then people going like, yeah, but this part sucked, and you're like, yeah, that wasn't very good, and it's like, but what about this thing? It's like, yeah, that was really bad too, and then by the time you're done, you're like, ugh, why was it good? And but people are like, yeah, but this thing, and you're like, yeah, I actually agree, that part was okay, or that actor was okay. Yeah, overall, it aged poorly very quickly, and that's the case. If not, it just comes out the gate spoiled.
Well,
Oh, by the way, did you hear about the Acolyte spoiler?
Yeah, I did. I died laughing.
Yeah,
I saw
isn't that funny? I thought
hilarious.
they were gonna try to do a Skywalker connection. I thought that was what the rumor was gonna be, but
The
other
Rings
one,
of Power, the Rings of Power did the same thing with their trailer, but we'll talk about that once we get to it. But the odd thing is like on one hand, so I guess let me start here.
You good?
Peter Jackson coming back. If there's anybody who can take this, side quest that has at most a page written about it, right, and do a good job with it, it's Peter, Fran, and Philippa, right? If anybody's gonna be able to
Agreed.
nail it, it's them.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, for the most
Can
part,
I
not
say
saying
this?
that there isn't anybody else that can't do it, but
let me say this because
Okay.
I heard this today because Doctor Who is currently running and it's not doing very well, and it hasn't been doing very well. I think since Peter Capaldi did his first season, I think his run was a little divisive, but it hasn't been in its heyday since David Tennant and Matt Smith were in that role.
right.
And something that maybe Gary said it, but Stephen Moffat, who was heavily involved during that time period, he came back and he did the most recent episode, and it's getting the treatment of like it's a little bit better. Some things about it are better than the previous episodes, so therefore it's back to like form. Like, oh, Doctor Who's back, baby. And then like a lot of other people are like, no, it's not. It's still bad. Like this isn't good. And he mentioned something where he was like, Stephen Moffat's been out of the game for like 10 years. Like, he hasn't done anything of relevance, I don't think, since he stopped being involved with Doctor Who. And so there is this part of me, and like Jackson's been doing his thing, right? But he's been doing like documentaries. He's been doing, so there's like,
like with the Beatles has been different.
Yeah, there is this little part of me that's like, I want to believe. I want to believe, but it's just like so far, it's not bad. It's mostly just like, okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's hesitation is with the Hobbit trilogy, and it's like, well,
it is.
You got like that's more on the executives of Warner Brothers than
Agreed.
Peter Jackson, because he was literally figuring it out as he was going, and so he had no time to write a script, nothing. It was shoot, let's go, let's get this done. And then also people also forget he is a billionaire now as well. So I don't think he would have come back to do this if this wasn't something of a passion project for him. Like, I really,
agreed.
You're a billionaire. It's like,
you don't have.
I don't think I really need money that
well.
way.
I mean, for every one of those, there's the that movie that Seinfeld did recently. That dude's
there's
like,
that exception.
Stupid rule. Yeah, he comes back like out of retirement and has this passion project, and everyone's like, "No, this sucks." Anyway, I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic on this one. That's where I'm at right now. Is there more to this whole thing besides like it might be about Gollum?
Yeah, so Andy Serkis is coming to direct, and he's gonna, return as Gollum. Which, as an actor like him, as a director, I mean, he directed the last Venom movie, but there is
that's not fair to
a
him,
movie
though.
on his. Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Might not be.
But there's also a movie that he directed. What is it called? Blight, or let me pull it up here. But anyway, I don't know. Right now I can't think of it, but I've heard that movie was actually directed really well, and acting wise, he's done a fantastic job. Caesar,
of course,
there was
he's definitely got
obviously
chops,
Gollum.
Yeah.
Acting wise, superb, but so he did Venom, he did Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, and then it was Breathe, which is a movie I heard that was directed really well.
Okay.
But in either case, we're going to see now, which is a totally different ball game for him.
Yeah.
But I think with Peter being there, it's good. and Fran and Philippa writing it. Now, it would have been much of a banger if they would have announced this, and it would have been like the Angmar Wars or the Kinstrife in Arnor or the War in the North.
I don't know, man. Or like,
what was going on in the North,
give
like
us
during the time of the Lord of the Rings, like what was happening with Gondor and everything.
or give us like give us something really heavy.
The fall of Moria.
like-
They could have done Balin's quest back to Moria to retake Moria.
Well, the thing that came to my mind at first was like Children of Hurin. Like when you had
yeah,
mentioned
they
that
just don't have the
before,
rights for it.
They don't. Okay, see, and that again,
No.
there go. That's another big problem. That
That's First Age rights. They only have the rights to the Lord of the Rings.
how is it
and the
how is it
Appendices and
possible
the
that
Hobbit.
how is it possible that the Tolkien estate at this point in particular isn't just like do whatever you want? Like
They're really protective of that, and I heard someone's podcast-
allegedly,
yeah,
allegedly. Look at where we're
But
at
I've heard
now, though.
on someone's podcast that about the rights regarding Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
that apparently they're about to move from the Tolkien estate to Christopher Tolkien's estate.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Is
I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't vet it.
Is that better?
Well, I know he, on one hand, he was really protective of, his father's works
Right.
and everything like that. And so that could possibly be. I mean, to my understanding, it's Simon that runs the Tolkien estate. I don't know the ins and outs of everything.
Yeah.
I just know with the few, I don't care anything about insulting Simon, Tolkien, or anything like that.
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
know the guy.
But as far as the comments I've heard him make, the few comments I've heard him make about like The Hobbit and just regarding the Rings of Power,
Yeah.
I don't really care for him to be in charge based off of my limited understanding.
Gotcha.
But man, like they could have done the war. They could have announced War of the Dwarves and Orcs. That would have been great. I mean, there's so many different things, and there's so many different stories they could have
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
that make more sense than
Oh, a lot of them. Yeah, there are a lot of stories that would have made more sense, I think.
It's just.
And that's
But,
why I'm just like
I'm still
I don't know.
excited.
There's so many, and you know me, like my limited knowledge of that universe. There are so many interesting things that they could have made. Like good stylistic films can be made out of these, right? With good stories, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, you've seen those like AI generated trailers. I think they've done. I think they did Lord of the Rings. I know they've done some Star Wars stuff, and they have like really heavy '70s sci-fi like aesthetics to them.
Yeah.
That's the kind like how because we've talked about this on the show quite a bit, but like that's the kind of stuff from like an aesthetic standpoint that I would obviously with good stories like we talk about that all the time, but like from the aesthetic side, I'm so bored with a lot of what they've been doing from like fantasy sci-fi. What was the word that you used earlier with Dune?
Clinical.
It's like clinical. I don't even know if that's right. Maybe the word that I'm looking for, but it's to some degree it's like what we talk about with a lot of the fantasy television that's on right now. But like nobody has any real vision for the stuff that we're getting. And I'm not going to say that about Peter Jackson. That's not what I mean. But I don't know.
I think with the proper time and everything that he'll be able to do it, especially since this is more of a passion project and everything. Granted, he's not directing; it's Andy Serkis, and he doesn't. I think he has the pull to be like, if we need to delay this, they would delay it.
Yeah.
Considering, I think, to my understanding, I think it was the OneRing.net that reported that Peter Jackson is basically going to be in a Kevin Feige role for Warner Brothers.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well,
I think that's potentially interesting.
With
Fran and Philippa writing everything, it's that gives me hope. But I mean, I really think, man, like you're taking a page at most.
The Gollum,
like,
yeah.
Like, the weirdest part to me about it is, despite everything I've said, is these characters that are going to be in there, their arcs are already completed.
Yeah, that's another big
so
problem.
Like, why?
Yeah, why can't we get please just give us something new? And I guess that's part of it too. Is like I I really don't need more Gollum. Like, we have that.
Ah.
In the same way that with The Hobbit and a lot of, like, bringing Legolas back and doing all these other things, right? It's a similar feeling where you're just kind of like, dude, it's done.
Yep.
Bringing Gollum back for that makes sense because he's in The Hobbit, That's not really the complaint. It's just like, why are you shoehorning all this other stuff in that doesn't really need to be here? Just to get your 3 incredibly long movies out. I just, like I said, I'm gonna say cautiously optimistic because I'm glad, but like again, we just don't live in a time where like I can, it be like, in Peter Jackson we trust, right? Like it's just not. It's not the
I'm
the
hopeful.
time period that we live in.
I'm hopeful. I think my problem isn't Peter Jackson. It's not Fran and Philippa. Granted, I don't know Fran and Philippa personally, or Peter, so I don't know, how they're, how they are as far as like how they view the world and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I will say Philippa gave a very PC answer when it came to the Rings of Power, as far as like not, not
they know it's, dude. They know it sucks.
Yeah.
They know it.
Peter Jackson did say with this that they're gonna go where Tolkien leads us. I can't remember his words verbatim, but he essentially said we're gonna go where Professor Tolkien leads us. I believe was his exact words.
All right.
When it came to this. So
all right.
I mean, I think that gives me hope him being there. But the problem is that this is the thing. I was listening to, I think it was either Chris Gore, I can't remember the guest he had on, or the guy that's been on in his absence with Alan.
I cannot
remember his name.
I know
I'm
who
sorry.
you're talking about.
It was either him or it was Tyrone. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he was saying when he was talking, one of them were talking about DEI and race swapping. For all I know, it could have been just some guy. But I think it was Tyrone or Chris, the guy on Chris Gore's Furiosa review. Anyway, what they were saying is that it's not that switching this character to this race or this gender or whatnot automatically makes something bad. It's more of a symptom that you're not taking the source material seriously.
Yeah.
And therefore it's opening the door it's like opening the door for a flood of problems to enter in. And so that's kind of my concern is, because of Warner Brothers and the policies they have, is it going to be more like a Christopher Nolan type deal to where he can make an Oppenheimer and, have the cast that he wants? Or is it going to be something to where that's more like Rings of Power, where they, they're forced to, because of Amazon's policies, to include, people's groups and places where they're not, even in the lore where they're not at. I mean, if
maybe
you want to go from Harad and from Rune, then yeah, by all means.
Right.
But
maybe by the time this thing starts, getting legs, a lot of that stuff will have fallen apart, because it already kind of feels like it's headed that direction.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's like I don't want to see Shogun replaced with a bunch of white actors.
Bro, it's like the whole I mean, I don't want to get into this because I don't want to give it more legs than it already has, but even the whole thing going on with like Ubisoft's new Assassin's Creed game, where they literally did that specifically to try to create drama for their game.
They did. Yeah, they
did. And Ubisoft has been a bunch of talentless hacks for like a long time now. Just like copy pasta of like everything they do. It just
that's really a lot of
climb
gaming.
the tower, open up the map. It's like, oh, it's such a snooze fest now, guys.
That's a lot of AAA gaming, man. That's the same way Madden is. It's just a reskin, and
dude,
some other games I'm aware of. It's like no one wants to be innovative because it just seems to be. It's not that there's not competition in video games, but at the same time, it seems like there's not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it just like
with certain properties, like that's the problem with EA with Madden, is that there's no one else for them to compete against,
right?
Because they hold the license.
Yep, and that's the thing is like when you don't have good competition, you get stale, and you're just seeing so much of that. Sony, Microsoft, and that's why, and we've talked about this a little bit. Over this past few months or so, because that's something I've been running into a lot, where I'm just like, man, it's the same way with like movies, right? Where I'm looking for these hidden gems. I'm looking for the stuff that isn't getting wide release, that isn't on everybody's radar. That's like, yeah, like this is actually pretty good. You should, because I miss that, like
Yeah.
growing up and before the internet was like all engrossing, and your friends had to recommend you movies because like maybe they sat at the video store for a long time, or like they were able to just like go through a bunch of things and recommend stuff that you probably never heard of that you might be interested in, just like these little movies. Same thing with like music. Like there were always a couple friends that I went to that was like, okay, I trust your taste in music, we have similar taste in music, like let's do that. But now it's just like, and I guess really, dude, like the idea of nerd culture, it's so sterilized and like mainstream,
Yep.
where you know it's one of those things that's like this idea of like liking everything, right? Where, oh, I'm a fan of, say, Lord of the Rings, right? So if it has Lord of the Rings on it in any capacity, I am a fan of that thing.
Yeah, because people just want more content. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I don't want more content.
It's
I want,
really gross.
I want quality
Yeah,
content.
it's really gross consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
And when say, okay, take like Rings of Power comes out, right? And it's not just us, but obviously this was our experience. We got heat from people who said that they were like super fans, or like maybe they do have like really good knowledge of the lore or whatever the case may be. But then like this show comes out and they're like, oh yeah, the show's great because Arundel is there, or like, oh, they reference this minute little thing, or oh, he said Mithril, clap, he said Mithril, right? It's the same thing now with the Acolyte and that dumb whip lightsaber, where they're like, whip lightsaber, clap for the whip lightsaber, like, yeah, like that's what it is. It's not, hey, we're gonna have a 2-hour long conversation about episode 1 and then do that again for the next, how many was it, 10 episodes? I don't even remember now, dude.
I think I sent you about the whip lightsaber. One of the writers were like, I want to get whipped with a lightsaber.
Yeah, but and apparently it's like it been a thing in like EU lore or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't care, dude. It's still stupid. I was telling Jake the other day. Jake is a massive Star Wars fan. Like he knows.
He has a whip lightsaber, doesn't he?
I don't know. That'd be funny. He what was I gonna say? He we talk about Star Wars a lot, and he still really likes it, but he also agrees with me. And I was like, Jake, I'm just, I think, old at this point, but I just want to go back to what the core of Star Wars started at, which was very much like Kurosawa films, and their space samurai, right? Like that's pretty much what it is. Like I want to go back to that core, and I want them to build something off of that rather than just this Disney garbage. And we're never going to get it as long as Disney has the title, or like holds the rights to it. Like we're just
they need to just sell it.
We will never, like I at this point I don't see it ever happening. We will never get anything solid from Star Wars as long as Disney holds the rights. Like it's just not possible. They can't do it.
A lot of the problem is you can't.
I like Ewoks too.
Stifle
Captain.
You can't stifle creativity with a checklist. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the issues with Disney is they're too heavy-handed. And I definitely believe that executives could probably take a horrible movie and make it bad, or a bad movie and potentially make it, not as bad, but maybe even all right. But you're never going to see an executive make something good or great, from what was presented to them script-wise and stuff like that. Most of the time, producer notes and executive notes are either going to make it worse, or just it's going to be negligible difference it makes.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say that is because I prefer Josh Whedon's version of the Batman versus Superman versus Zack Snyder's 4-hour snooze.
Sure.
Fest.
I mean, that's fair enough. I think they're both trash. I have no interest in that.
They are.
Dude, I don't know if I'll ever watch anything from the DCEU ever again.
Dude,
you know what? Maybe
2.5 hours.
Maybe Suicide Squad, the second one.
Well, I watched 2.5 hours of that Zack Snyder movie, and I was like,
Oh,
I completely
dude,
understand
it
why the
is.
executives
I
gave
wanted
him.
to, bro. I wanted to rip my hair out, and like funny enough, at the time, this is what I do sometimes. Like I'll go on Facebook to just like gauge some of the normies that we know. And I can't remember exactly what I said on there, but it was something like, Zack Snyder's Justice League movie, like, you know, something along the lines of like he thinks he's this incredible auteur and it's just like slow motion garbage or whatever, and people were like mad, you know, and I'm like, guys, come on now, like you see it, you see it, and the only reason you're upset is because I pointed it out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he just needs a good writer and he's a better director.
Nah,
But I don't even think that
Come on
argument
now.
holds much weight.
No, I don't think
But
so. He, you know, depending on who you ask, like a couple of his films are all right. I really want to. I need to go back and watch Watchmen again. But I think like I have a nostalgic place for 300, and maybe we are gonna do a full episode on this, by the way, like the whole Michael Bay versus Zack Snyder thing.
yes,
When we have like a slow week, like that is specifically what we're gonna do, and it's not like we have to watch all the movies, but I specifically want to have a discussion about. Like,
it's definitely Bay.
I think Bay. Yeah, I think Bay comes out on top. I think he has
I think so.
a few movies in his catalog that specifically help him out a lot more than Snyder. But I would probably, if I was going to, I'd be selective of the movies I went back and watched. It'd probably be the ones that I remember a little bit more fondly, or I feel like I need to put eyes on from like a today lens rather than the last time I watched them. Because his remake of Dawn of the Dead I remember liking, but that was like high school. When the last time I saw, I think it was high school. It was either like early college or high school. So it's been a while. And then Watchmen is one that there are things in it that I'm like, maybe there's something to it. You know, he still had to very much follow. He had like very specific guidelines for the most part that he had to follow with that. So maybe there's something to it. But other than that, like 300 I saw last year, and I was like, yeah, this movie has a lot of problems. There's things I like in it, but it's mostly sort of like very like ape brain stuff more than it is like this is good.
Yeah.
That movie is wild. I had forgotten.
Well,
I had forgotten some of the weird like world building that he did with that.
Oh yeah.
That I'm like, what is this? It's a very strange movie.
Speaking of world building, are you ready to get into this Rings of Power trailer?
Do we have to?
Just briefly.
It's back, baby.
Yep.
I can't believe it.
Or are you gonna play it by chance?
I have it. Yeah, I've got it pulled up.
Okay.
Yeah. We won't worry about watch together. I've got our connections really good, so if you have the stream pulled up, you should be able to see it pretty like
perfect.
You know, it shouldn't take.
I do
too
have
long.
the stream pulled up, so nice. All right. So when it opened up, I was really confused. I don't even know what we're looking at right now. I don't know.
This was like one of the
without
last...
the banner, without the PowerPoint banner, I'm completely thrown off. I mean,
I know where
are we right now?
Oh, brother.
I mean, Amazon should just be lucky that I can read, because without that PowerPoint banner, man, I would have been completely lost on where they were supposed to be. But yeah, so it starts off. We got Mordor. I can't roll my R's, otherwise I would have rolled them for like.
Mordor. That was really bad. I wasn't rolling my R's at all. I don't think. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we get this shot with old Paul Brawny,
Lord of
and
Wings.
he's crying because Galadriel rejected him, and that's his impetus to take over Middle Earth, because he got rejected.
Is this? Is it? This isn't Halbrand. Is this Halbrand?
That is Halbrand.
That is. To be honest, I have watched so much of that show from my memory that it's. I'm like looking at him, and I'm like,
let me refresh your memory. So this dude, Galadriel at the end of season 1, right, finds out that he's Sauron and does not tell anybody. the big baddie that helped
That's right.
Morgoth.
Okay, so
The original Dark Lord.
oh, bro, am I gonna have to
You
watch
know,
season 1 again? Am I gonna have to watch?
basically
Uh,
what they have done is set Galadriel up to be to blame for everything. We'll see later on the trailer. And I gotta say,
bro,
I hate teaser trailers, because you only get like 1 to 2 second clips, and you can't make too much out of them. So yeah, there's a lot of speculation here, but I'm 100% skeptical and 0% optimistic. So
yeah,
yeah, Captain, if you check out and it's okay that you liked it. That's okay. Um,
oh,
but yeah, we
bro,
definitely hated
yeah.
season one.
There's a good 10 hours of us tearing apart season 1 if you go back through our catalog.
And I'm what you would call a Tolkien expert, and David,
Yeah.
professor,
Bro,
any of
yes,
those humble titles.
Professor Nations over here.
David is not as familiar with the lore as I am.
No.
When
I've
we
read
get season 1. You get
Yeah.
both perspectives.
You do.
In our breakdown.
Listen, and when we I guess we have to talk. We just constantly have to say this, which I don't mind, is like that the way that we typically run things is that it's like it's about what is given to us. So it's about the story, like the way that it's written. And I'm not impressed by visuals that have nothing else going on with them, and I don't even think the visuals in season 1 are very good. But yeah, man,
Do you just want to talk about our overall thoughts regarding this trailer versus a breakdown of it?
Bro, I don't know what to say. Like
I do.
Okay, I mean, like Halbrand.
So I would say
Halbrand
visually,
mad.
it looks visually. I'll start there. Visually, it looks fine.
Okay, so you know what I think?
Still think it looks. I still think it looks too clean. It doesn't look. I don't know. It's just it's too sharp. It's missing that lived-in feel.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing it's the biggest complaint we had with the first. Well, not the biggest. I don't even know why I said that. It's definitely one of the major complaints we had about the first season. I'm just, dude.
I'm really hoping we get those nice philosophical.
Dude, you know what's
quotes
crazy
this year that really can impact you?
Like, rocks sink and boats float. Just in case y'all forgot, I do remember some of the first
season. A dog barks
season.
at the moon, but a dog can't bring it down,
bro. This is the biggest thing. This is some of they opened. Oh no, Captain, you're good.
You're good.
Don't worry, we'll convert you eventually. It's so funny to me that they open with this shot, with the idea that we, as an audience. By the way, this thing has about, and this is just according to the reinstalled dislike button, 500,000 dislikes.
Oh, nice. I'm part of that.
93,000 upvotes to 509,000 dislikes. Which those numbers aren't even 100% accurate. So it's a lot more. It's a lot more dislikes than that. Remember this? Yeah. We also remember how it was created and how stupid that was.
It's supposed to be a member berry from the original trilogy, that shot of Mordor that you get.
Yeah, and it's like, nah, man. It was the weird what was it? Was it a knife? Right. That opened up a thing, and then the waterfall
in an instance,
and then
the heroin addict, the tweaker, had the magic sword that the only purpose,
and then
you got to give it your blood,
but
it's just a key to open a dam to make Mordor.
And then it's like the super volcano, and then everyone surviving the super volcano, and everyone telling me that I'm an idiot for thinking that everyone should have been completely wiped out. From getting caught up in that, bro.
Dude.
Oh, what a good year that was.
I can't wait for season 2.
And then sludge monster made of worms that I'm just
talking about little Venom?
Oh, yeah, the whatever this is.
As soon as I saw that was my first thought. I think that
Venom.
So I'm not sure if that's going to be the black goo that we saw from season 1, or if it's
dude, I
going
forgot
to be
about
Sauron.
that.
Sauron's a shapeshifter, so I'm not sure if that's
if that's how they'll.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
it did kind of make a head shape almost. I don't know if that's going to be how they,
Dude,
show him
it's so
shape shifting.
it's so generic. I don't even. Is there anything lore wise? Is there detail as to how he shapeshifts, or is that sort of open to interpretation?
Open to
Okay.
interpretation.
I
Although
I
I
don't.
wouldn't. I would say now troll room. You can correct me. I'm not. I don't teach, and I don't have a YouTube channel dedicated to Tolkien lore. But to my understanding, it's not. It would be more like I'm trying to think.
Well,
I would
so
picture it more like happening like I
here's
don't know, like
if
poof.
this poof. I like that
Spontaneous
Poof.
combustion.
This is what I would say, because I think there is like, I would kind of agree, at least in the idea, like I would think it should be more subtle. Okay, and we're going off the speculation that that's what this is, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
we could be proven wrong when the show comes out, but that's fine. But if this is what they're going for, there's some problems with it. I think that it's incredibly unsubtle, because you're just like, hey, look at the evil thing that's obviously evil because worms and black goo, right?
Yeah.
And if this is how he shapeshifts, doesn't that to some degree fly? Wasn't he supposed to be like beautiful?
Yes,
Wasn't
that's
the idea
as
that it's like an angelic thing?
as Anatar he is.
Okay.
But they kind of screwed the pooch with that with introducing the Hallbring character in the first season.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking this is more going to be the black goo than hopefully it's
Than maybe
not
him.
how
Okay.
he
Yeah,
shapeshifts.
I would probably lean in that direction, but I know that
Because,
we're still speculating.
So I say that to say, actually, I would say this in that when Sauron and Berian and Luthien, when Huron has Sauron in his mouth, he shapeshifts to a snake. Huron keeps his grip on him, and then Sauron has to make a deal with Luthien to basically secure his freedom, right? And so Sauron makes a deal with her. Huron lets him go. Sauron shapeshifts immediately to a bat or was it a vampire or bat, and flies away. I think it was a bat, and flies away. And so I don't really see black goo being that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's kind of generic to have that, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's very like, okay, like I there's, again, like we're talking about like a high budget fantasy show, and I'm looking at this being like, you know what I mean? There's one shot.
If they would have showed this for season, if this would have been season 1, I would have been more, dare I say, like
He just puts on a wig.
more optimistic.
Sorry,
than,
did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that.
That's funny.
But I mean, this is what season 1 probably should have been. It seems like it's still going to be bad and terrible. Hopefully, I mean, I don't want something as bad as season 1, but I mean, it probably will be as bad, but it could be not as bad too, in the same end. Like they're doing things that are more canonical. However, they've already broken everything so bad. But even in the trailer, I can't even really say that yet. So, to spoil the lead, they're doing the sack of Arakion, but there's certain things in between that, just based off the teaser trailer, that I can tell that they've messed up on.
Yeah.
And then we have all these other storylines going on, like in season 1, we were in Numenor, we were in Mordor, we were in, wherever with the hobbits, we were in, another place, and they're trying to do the Game of Thrones thing where they have all these different events going on throughout the world, and they end up connecting them, but yet right now none of these events connect to each other. Like not Gandalf going to Rune, if that is in fact Gandalf, and they decide to make it a blue wizard or something. So
Right.
they're just kind of all over the place lore wise, and they've broken it so bad that the only way they could have recovered it is if Galadriel would have woken up, or you just have a character wake up and like, oh, I was having this bad dream, and this is what happened. And you just like completely put away with season 1 and start fresh.
For those of you watching live on YouTube, I just pasted in the playlist for our original reviews of this. So 7 episodes No. So it was what, 8 episodes? Is that right?
Yeah, 8
and then we have
episodes.
7 of these because we did 1 and 2 mostly in that first one.
Yep. And the release schedule is going to be is either the first 2 episodes are getting released or the first 3 episodes maybe
Okay.
getting released. I've heard the first 3, but I read an article that said, or not an article, but I looked it up, and Brave AI said that it was going to be the first 2 episodes will be released. So
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
So if you guys are interested in going back and watching our thoughts, I'm actually planning on going back and listening to our reviews of it to catch myself up, so I don't have to go back and actually
Watch the show.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, just to get a reminder of where we were. It'll be a nice little nostalgic time for me too, to go back to what was 2 years ago.
Yeah, dude.
It's almost
crazy.
two. It'll be 2 years by the time season 2 comes out.
I think this is gonna
That's crazy.
absolutely suck, dude. I changed my mind. I think season 2 is gonna be. I mean, I said horrible but I think it's probably gonna be on par with season 1.
Yeah, oh, it definitely is, if not worse. There's no way. So one of the things that I think is pretty obvious. Oh, you know what's funny is, like, you guys, if you go back and watch those, you can actually see our faces because we were still doing cameras back then.
Yes.
Which we gave up on because I got tired of having to, like, look not disheveled in front
from
in
work
front of a
when you
camera.
get off of work.
Yep. All right, so we get our little Avengers shot right here.
Yes. Our fellowship shot, dude.
I mean, dude, it's
Remember the
literally,
Fellowship
it's
in
literally
Moria?
Avengers. This is ridiculous. It's the exact. Can I pull up? Hang on, y'all. Hang on. We
It's
got
also it's not
yeah,
only
yeah,
is it
yeah, yeah.
Avengers, but it's also a shot from, remember the Fellowship in Moria?
Oh yeah, you're right. It's also that. That's crazy. It's so funny to me, dude.
They repurposed some of Peter Jackson's line in the trailer too.
Let's see, Avengers.
It's just so funny.
Is it?
I heard
Maybe it's Avengers a symbol. I wonder if that. I
Yeah,
just need the spinny. No. Here, this is it. Is this like really quick clip? Hang on. Come on. You gonna work for me? Oh, it's like 1:50. I'll get to the actual part though. Holy moly, dude! Like, come on.
It's
Like,
so great.
It's not. They're not even trying. Golly, I need to go back and watch the original Avengers again. That movie is actually very good. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully we don't get copyright struck for this. Make sure it's actually showing up. Okay. Here we go. No audio. Look at this. Oh, it's going the opposite direction. Dude. Almost. I mean, it's worse too, right? Okay, now this one. Right. So they are spinning in the opposite direction, right? I am right about that. Yeah, it's going the opposite way.
Yeah. Yep. It's going the opposite
dude,
way.
it is the exact. It's just flipped. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they filmed it going in the same direction. It's not even as good, and it's not earned, right? I mean, that scene. So, like, okay, we're gonna talk about this for a second because I have to get a little bit granular. This scene in Avengers is earned.
Yep.
This is something that was earned not only in this movie, but the build-up that they did with all the other movies that came out before this. But even specifically in Avengers, this is earned. Not only that, it's got this awesome. It's probably the one time that Hulk. Remember when Hulk was actually all right? Remember?
Yes.
You remember when he was an all right character? And like this whole thing, right? We all remember this, And he's like, "That's the secret. I'm always angry." Right? Like, I love this. Remember characters, Joseph? Remember
I
when
do remember
remember
that.
payoffs?
I remember.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like I need people to just understand. Like Rings of Power is just like
It doesn't
it's
hold
not-
up on its own.
No.
It's very much amateurish high school writing.
And not just that, but like everything about it. They just it's basically a shot for shot. Right? Like it's the exact same thing.
I was hearing someone, Lofty Pixels particularly, argue with Platoon
Yeah.
about how The Rings of Power is not a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the movies. And Platoon was arguing back like, yes, it is. I'm like, dude, there's no way you can argue that it's not supposed to be a prequel because they literally copy almost everything from Peter Jackson.
Yeah, that we
Not-
talked
I
about
won't
it.
say everything, but a lot of stuff from Peter Jackson, right?
We talked about how in season 1 we talked specifically about moments where it's like, yeah, they are referencing the movies here. You know,
Yep.
It's slipping my mind, but I know there's quite a few things with Gandalf, not Gandalf.
Yeah, when he says when he makes the nose comment,
Follow your nose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. I know there was some other stuff from it, but it's
And his
like,
dumb, stupid voice doesn't have a speak.
bruh, it's bringing it's bad. It's bringing back memories from that show.
That drama's coming back.
The moth
And-
or whatever. What's this? You
the
know,
Nas girls are back. I
yeah,
guess.
or whatever they're supposed to be. Even though I guess they
the cult
he
like
didn't.
leaders.
I thought he killed him. You know, is the wizard not as strong? I don't know, dude. Like, I'm already frustrated. I'm already frustrated.
Yeah, this looks like it's supposed to be Rune or somewhere in the east, which again would be interesting to see if it wasn't them making it. And so,
what's going on with the vines? Is
you know that I'm not too
Treebeard
sure about.
We getting Treebeard confirmed?
I don't know if it's that or if they're going to do something with Tom Bombadil and the Old Forest, or if that's going to be something
boy.
evil. Hopefully, it's nothing evil because that's not Sauron. But yeah, then we get the.
Well, this is
orcs
hang on. This
through.
looks like the same. Hang on. No, but those look like elves, maybe. But this looks like the same. The color grade's the same between this shot and this shot,
Captain,
and these trees.
Captain, you'll have to go back and watch our reviews because I don't have the time here.
I don't. Yeah.
And I don't mean that in any bad way. It's fine if you enjoy it. Again, like for me, I enjoy the Hobbit. Well, I enjoy the first Hobbit.
Bro, we can argue that there's different levels of mistakes.
Yeah, there's different levels of mistakes.
Like-
Plus, just because you enjoy something doesn't mean that you don't also have to recognize, where a movie is bad or a TV show.
Yeah, good friend of the show, technically Mexican, for now, still defends The Last Jedi because he likes it, even though he knows that we both think it's terrible, and I have been very clear about why that movie is bad. But that's just how it goes, man.
And we text him every day and let him know. how
Yeah.
bad-
Hey, by the way, yeah. And like he comes on the show, and I poke fun at him about it. I think just about every time he comes on, I'll at least bring it up once. Those look like
yeah,
similar
so-
shots, so I don't know if like maybe
I think it may be the
some
force of
magic-y-
Aragon.
Yeah.
It may be the force of Aragon because you got a troll in the background too. And then the main thing I kind of wanted to talk about, the two things I want to talk about was Sauron having a freaking blonde wig, and I'm telling you,
Yeah. We
if,
can.
if that's how he flows.
Oh, dude, I didn't notice there. Oh, so this is his transformation here, dude. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna say now. Now that we're kind of like actually breaking this thing down a little bit. That other thing is a black goo thing.
And I will say this.
This is him transforming into putting that wig on.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I do like this shot. I do like them like they're trying to mirror the Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings. I get that. If this was a better show, I would really like that shot. And if they're like, hey, we're doing our own thing, right? We're not going to have Sauron be an eye. But
there are some like decent shots in the first season.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything because,
the story sucked.
For every like little thing that they do, like people, we get comments still to this day from shorts, among other things, where people are like, "Oh yeah, I liked this 30-second thing of where they showed like Sauron in his like full get up from Lord of the Rings." But like, let's also not forget that painting. That was in Numenor, right? It was in Numenor.
Let's also not forget that Galadriel's dumb that she spent thousands of years searching for Sauron.
Oh, it makes no
he
sense.
was right by me.
It makes no
whole,
sense.
like weeks or months, however long it was supposed to be, when they condensed the timeline.
And
so I
then
can't
finds him
remember.
in the middle of the ocean. Okay, here's his wig, by the way.
And as the map, it doesn't know. Hey, if I just turn it to the side, it's a map.
Yep.
Oh, that's Galadriel, the
Bro.
queen of perception for you.
Yeah. She's so good at what she does. Nah, man, it's just people don't want to hear it. They don't.
They should have just put a mustache on Sauron, or on.
No, Halbrand just gets like the like bizarro like in I think it's DC or whatever. There's this like joke that's like all the evil characters just have goatees.
Yeah.
So he just puts a goatee on now. It's like ah ha ha with his wig, and it's.
I saw a meme where someone put the freaking how there's that disguise with the big nose and the mustache and everything, and they put that on the Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings, the flaming eye. I was like, that's so funny. It was like the elves will never know.
Here's his wig. Here he is.
One wig to rule them all.
He looks more like an elf than any other elf in the show.
Yeah, with a receding hairline.
Yeah, it's weird. That doesn't look.
Looks so bad.
Something's wrong. They did something weird. Hang on, can I?
I'm hoping this is just an audience shot and that like they actually do have another actor playing Anatar.
I guess
because
that
there's
is
no way
real.
he appears like that, and
bro,
that's how he tricks them.
It don't look good.
No. And then there's that other scene at the end where he makes the elves turn on each other, like he controls them, and it's like, guys, that's such a Hollywood thing to do. That's not Sauron's power. He doesn't do that. Yes, he's manipulative and cunning and persuasive and ingenious in that aspect, but he doesn't literally control people. Like, it took him 20 years to get Ar-Pharazôn to sell against the Valar. Like, he wins people to his side because he detects their fears and
this show doesn't have time for that, Joseph.
No. Then the other part was them, you get at the very end.
By the way, I like this. I like the shot. I think this.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
I think this looks cool.
I wonder if that's going to be the creature in the water. I think it is outside of Khazad Dûm.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
So no, but this is what I'll
Tolkien
say.
describes him as having like at least 20 tentacles, and it seems that way.
This is what's her
seems
face?
like it's outside Numenor.
This is what's her face from Numenor, Queen Lady, right?
Tarmiriel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then this is also her.
Yep.
So she has visions. It would be pretty bad because I like your theory, and you may not be wrong, but this clearly is more. She's going to spend a good bit of this season just hallucinating about the end of Numenor, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is like her plot this season. That this is happening, and she starts telling people. Everyone thinks she's crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be like the Noah and the Ark situation where like this doom is coming and nobody believes the crazy lady and she turns out to be right.
Yeah. And then they have
dude.
Disa takes a
Planeteer. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Wait, isn't that?
Saw that.
Yeah.
And it's like the dwarves never have the Planeteer. Like that's strictly Rings of Power.
I just need oh my gosh, his name is slipping my mind. There's so many
You talking about Dookie Elrond? Or are you talking about Durin?
No, shoot. He has the sister that doesn't exist. The attractive sister that doesn't exist. Yes, Isildur's sister.
I'm glad
Yeah, I need her to come back. She's probably not going to.
I'm glad you brought that up because the cliffhanger from last season was we don't know if Isildur's alive. I mean, obviously we do, but
that's right.
They show him in the trailer.
No. Well, his sister's going to save him this season.
Well, they showed him in the trailer with Ola Rondir.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I guess that's spoiled. You pulled, I guess the Acolyte took after the Rings of Power with that one. And then we get the orc licking the knife because you remember when Lurtz did it in the Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings.
And then these really ugly rings, dude.
Yeah,
This
and I'm
makes
wondering
me.
if they're gonna
Oh,
have
this makes me
Círdan.
mad.
I guess they are because Círdan has, is it Nenya? Nenya? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it is Nenya that he has that ends up being given to Gandalf when
These
Gandalf comes.
these look terrible.
Like ring pops.
These look terrible.
They do.
The just like it's like size,
The
design.
Lord of the Ring
These
pops.
these are supposed to be. I don't know if this one is. I'm assuming it here, but like
Probably
these
blue
are-
raspberry.
these are supposed to be the rings that are like, they're
Yeah, the
like
seven rings given to the dwarves.
yeah, it needs to be something enticing, and I would look at this and be like, nah, dude, it's ugly.
I agree.
Sheesh. Who
But I think a
designed
lot of
that,
the
dude?
design with the dwarves isn't on point.
Um.
I haven't really enjoyed.
Oh,
the,
is this? Wait,
Yep. Yeah, he does his spinny move. Like he shoots out of a
Legolas, not
cannon.
Legolas.
Yeah.
Can we watch that? There you go. What in the world, bro?
It's like, bro, it would have been just a lot more simpler if you just jumped out regular.
Just go hide in the tree. Oh,
And of course,
bro.
Isildur's just standing by, like, oh, I can't do anything. I'm a total wuss, you know.
Yeah. He'll.
I-
Do you think
I
he'll have an
cannot
arc?
stand
He's not
what
gonna
they've
have.
done to his character.
Yeah, he had no arc last season, right? If I remember correctly, it was. I'm actually sort of excited to go back and listen to
A lot of people
our reviews.
don't know, but when Isildur got ambushed by the orcs and died, he was on his way to Rivendell to give up the ring to Elrond.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, so we get the eagles and Numenor, which also breaks the lore. So no surprise there. We gotta have the
Shocker.
eagles there because remember the eagles
Yeah, remember Eagles?
and Ar-Pharazôn. I'm wondering if all Ar-Pharazôn is gonna kill the eagle or what exactly. But
I
again,
feel
even
like-
this is breaking it because he rose up in power.
Bro, people.
In Numenor because he started as a military captain and ranked his way up.
They liked the Eagles from season 1, so they had to bring them back. Remember how like that was what everybody talked about, and that they're like, oh yeah, that like 10 seconds of the fight before she stacks all the helmets in a pile. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Remember when she took the time to do that?
I do. That was too fun.
Mm.
But yeah,
Also, okay. Let me ask you this, because you would know better than I would. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here with some of this. Would the Eagles, like, if they were involved in Numenor at the time and, like, this destruction that is eventually supposed to befall them, like, the Eagles are pretty wise, right? Like, aren't they?
yeah.
They're like
The Eagles are directly controlled, so to say, by Manwë, and so they're ambassadors of the Valar. And the
So, like,
Eagles weren't. The last time they were in Numenor was 1,000 years prior to Ar-Pharazôn taking power.
what if what they're gonna use to like actually warn the Numenorians, and it's gonna be this thing where it's like they're ignored,
Oh yeah,
I could see that being the case too,
we'll see.
because that's what's gonna happen this season. I would bet that if Numenor, wow man, they might. I'm going to say this because this is at least in my mind the way that you do it, and that they are going to either tease and Numenor gets destroyed this season, or they ramp it up this season and next season is the actual destruction.
Next season is when Numenor will be destroyed. It's too early for Numenor to get destroyed.
Okay, you say that.
I know.
You say
know.
that.
They play fast and loose. I know, David.
But
I know.
They don't. They do not. The pacing is not a thing they understand.
Hey, you don't have to tell me.
And just based on a lot of what we're seeing from Numenor this season already, like just with these few clips, like my mind is going in the direction that they want Numenor, like that wave or like whatever, it's coming before, but like the final episode is it's either gonna be like massive teaser that that's coming, next season, or it's gonna happen, and they'll close out the season on like something happening with that, and then maybe the fallout is a major plot point for the potential season 3.
I hope the finale the finale of the series is we end up finding that Sauron was everybody who was with us along the way.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to. There's a couple of really quick shots in here.
Yeah, that's the sack of Aragon. Adar's new. Theo's back. Yay.
Theo's mother is allegedly dead.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Good.
That's what some people were saying, is they think that's what he's crying about, is that she dies this season. Which, yeah, I mean, it's one less character we have to talk about. She's like forgettable from last season too, dude.
Yeah, if they not Gandalf.
Dude, this. He
does this "you shall not pass" move.
Dude, I definitely need to get like some sort of cut out of that. That's hilarious. We're gonna turn that into like an emoji or something.
The director was like, "Okay, do your power, do your special ability. You shall not pass."
Yeah. You saw the previous ones, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of the orcs that we've seen? Just
design wise, I like them. I think it's one of the things I really enjoyed about the Peter Jackson trilogy. Like, so I first watched the trilogy, and then that's what got me into the books. So that was my perspective. So going from that and then back to the movies, I really liked how tamed he was, and I'd say tamed and reserved in the sense of adding horror elements to the movies.
Oh, that's where you got to start too.
But keeping Tolkien's virtue,
yeah,
and morals and everything, and so that's what Rings of Power is lacking, is Tolkien's virtue.
Yeah,
one of the things that's lacking. That's a Harfoot. So at least.
Oh no, the Harfoots. Oh, I had forgotten about them.
Nobody walks alone and nobody gets left behind unless you become an inconvenience.
Yeah, and then we definitely leave you behind. Oh my gosh, dude.
You're definitely on your own. Good luck.
You're reminding me all this stuff, and I'm starting to rethink whether Wheel of Time is worse than this.
Rings of Power is definitely worse.
Maybe so. Oh, brother. Here's
do you want a little bit of poop or a lot of poop? That's kind of your decision.
There's a nice
why would she be shooting fire arrows in a forest?
I don't know, man. Why?
That's what
I don't know, man. Why would she be? It's so strange. It just, you know what it is? It's just because it's for lighting reasons.
Yeah, probably.
That's all it is. It lights up, it's more dynamic for the shot. I'm pretty sure that's the case, because there's quite a few movies. I can't remember if this actually happens in Lord of the Rings. I know they do it in Game of Thrones. But it's always more for like the cinematic look of it. Yeah. It's not ever supposed to be like you're right. It is really dumb that like it looks like she's in a forest that could potentially light on fire really easily from that. Yeah. But that's the only reason they ever do it. I mean, like, yeah, you're right. It's stupid, but dude, oh man, the armor. I can't wait. That's one of the things I am looking forward to with the season.
The armor didn't look so that helmet with Elrond did not look just something's off about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the helmet's too big for him.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? It doesn't fit properly.
No, it looks like he has a what's it called? Not a prosthetic, but something to like it's sitting not on his head, but he has something like a cushion on his head so it can fit. But
yep. Yeah, you're right. Let's see what else we got. Oh, here you go. We got to talk about this. This looks quite small to me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I don't really know what's going on here. You got any thoughts?
Unless it's Elrond's force attacking Sauron and Aragon. That's the only thing I could think of.
Excuse me. This might be that that what was it, 2 episodes? Oh, dude. Okay, so
2-episode battle.
So 8 episodes. Do you think their entire budget got spent on those 2 episodes of the battle, and the rest of it's going to be like with Halo? Dude, this is going to be paced just like Halo, I think. Mostly boring dialogue. Yeah, dude, it's boring dialogue.
You'll
with people
almost
in
make me
rooms.
reconsider that Lord of the Rings is the.
I think there is a head-to-head argument with what it really is the worst. Like bringing in like lore, actual just like show quality. I think there's arguments definitely between Halo, Lord of the Rings, and Wheel of Time. And I'm sure there's some others that you could probably put in there as well that are, vying for that spot as well. I saw the shot and I was like, this doesn't, it's fantasy, it's supposed to be epic. This just doesn't feel epic to me.
Yeah.
Feels like BBC television show or whatever. Another shot of him. It's just like none of this looks good, dude.
No, it doesn't.
Ooh.
You're gonna get the Forging of the Rings, but the Forging of the Rings are all out of order because they made the Elven rings, and those are the last rings that are made. And you got Celebrimbor trying to destroy them. This is where Sauron turns the elves against each other. Like he has mind control. He doesn't have mind control.
Oh, that's right. I remember you mentioning that. For whatever reason, that shot. Oh, dude. You know what this is, right?
Yeah, that's going to be that when Galadriel was that's going to be a flashback to when that what I'm assuming is where Galadriel killed the snow troll in episode 1 of last year. I think that's going to be that.
Wait, but this isn't that's not as icy as cuz look at it.
I'm not sure. It can't be Mordor or anything with Mordor.
So I know some people thought, though, they would just copy it completely. Maybe you are right. Maybe what it's doing is he's just poofing into creation one of his hideouts.
Unless that's Morgoth and is showing Morgoth doing it. But again, why does stuff have to be created in an instance like Mordor?
Yeah, it's really weird. And also, from a geographical perspective, this is in like a valley, and the place that she went was like way on top of a like cold mountain. Unless it's way up here above the clouds.
That's a good point.
And I can't tell if this is turning into snow or if it's just like fog. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just all this trailer is like we're gonna take all of the cool shots that we thought. By the way, okay, so roughly 8 hours, right? Like we're talking somewhere in that. We just got a minute 30, let's say, of what they believe are some of the best shots from the show. Just so everyone understands like where we're at right now. This is what they think is like the good stuff. And title card. New season.
And that's
August
it for the
29th.
trailer. So we'll be watching that on August 29th. Yay! It's gonna make so many memes.
Well, you have anything else you want to say about the trailer?
I'm done.
I'm planning to rewatch House of the Dragon and Arcane maybe this week. I got a couple 2024 movies on my list for the week as well. But I think I'm going to be able to just crush through both of those seasons pretty quick. It's not going to be a tough watch by any stretch. Which will be nice. I need to kind of get a refresher before those start up. Joseph, I want you to think about this too, okay? So we reviewed Arcane back roughly when it came out. I think it was a couple months after because we were a little late to the party on that. But we never really released that. Like you can find it if you go back to the podcast. So maybe when we have slow time, because I know you wanted to do Hobbit. I know there's like a bunch of stuff that we have like on the docket that we want to do, and I'm still down for sure. Maybe we re-review season 1 of Arcane before season 2 comes out.
I'd be game with that
because, Get it fresh in the mind. It's been a while. It might be fun too, and it might do a little bit better for us than I think the content at the time would have done. So something to think about. Maybe we can find some time when there's just a bunch of trash out that we don't care about. So, I'm just putting that out there. A little something.
Yeah, I'll be game.
But yeah, I'm gonna rewatch both of those pretty soon. I love season 1 of Arcane, and so I'm like, I'm a little nervous about season 2. I want to trust that they're just really in sync with what they need to do with that show, and that they're gonna take it in some good directions, and take their time where they need to. I'm sure we'll get some surprises. But yeah. And not really looking forward to Rings of Power. Not in the traditional sense, at least.
I hear you, man.
It's going to be fun, but oh, man. That's going to be a long couple of weeks.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a long few months.
And just so all of you know, like, during that time, we will probably specifically just be talking about each one of these episodes.
Yep.
That'll be what we do for the podcast.
House of the Dragon too.
House of the Dragon probably as well, because I think we'll talk about Acolyte episode 1, and then like probably give an update when it's over. We should see maybe we can get Quinlan back on, since he came on after Ahsoka was over. Maybe we can get him back on after Acolyte is over too. That'd be pretty cool. So
yeah, that's pretty much it for me, man.
Yeah, man. All right, y'all. Well, wow, we went longer than I expected. Thank you guys so much. This is 172, right?
It is.
Okay, just making sure. You know how like you start climbing up those numbers and you're like, did I get that number wrong?
Which one is it?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We'll be back next week. Have a couple other movies that I'll update you guys on. Oh, I'm going to see Furiosa sometime this weekend.
I'm hoping to see it this weekend. We'll see.
It's been getting positive reviews, not just from the mainstream. So maybe it's all right.
We'll see.
Maybe we'll be surprised. I've heard it's too long, so y'all get ready for that, because that'll be that'll be one of the first things we talk about next week. Is like, yeah, it's probably about half an hour too long. But yeah, Joseph, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And until next time, y'all, take it easy.
See ya.